and 32 papers now, and if you'll call your local paper, maybe we'll get in your paper as well in case we're not there. Now, they insisted on a 7-year renewal, so that's 14 years. I believe in those long-range goals. I really do. A lot of times people ask me, well, do you ever think about retirement? I said, yep, and said no long time ago. You might not know this, but the only time retirement is mentioned in the Bible, it is always as a punishment. I just hope God is not ready to punish me for a while at any rate. Got so many things I want to do. Now, I'm ready to go when He's ready for me, but I got a lot of things also I would like to get done. That retirement baloney got started in the 1870s in Germany when Bismarck was the chancellor. He just noticed one day that virtually every one of his powerful enemies was 65 and older. He persuaded the German legislature to pass legislation making age 65 mandatory retirement age. In one stroke of the pen, now he neglected to explain to everybody what he was doing, but in one stroke of the pen he eliminated the overwhelming majority of all of his enemies who had power, judgment, wisdom, influence, contacts, money, the whole smear. And for some reason, a lot of people, a lot of other countries said, hey, that's a good idea. Let's do that too. And as a result, we're putting out to pasture people as they literally, in many cases, hit their peak. I think it's a tragic mistake. For example, so many people are so age conscious. I was doing a radio talk show here a few months ago, and this lady called in. It's one of those question and answer deals, and she was almost crying. She said, I'm 55 years old. I've never done anything with my life, and now it's too late. I said, ma'am, did you say you were 55? She said, yes, I am. I said, you just a spring chicken. I said, as a matter of fact, does your mama know where you are? She did exactly what you just did in this live audience. She got so tickled, and the rest of the time we talked about solutions. Here's what you can do. So many people go through life whining. I really ought to carry some cheese with me so we could have wine and cheese. They tell me that those things kind of go together. Now, what I want to do is talk to you. You see, as you're listening to this, I have an idea right now you're smiling because we've been telling a little funnier and you're kind of interested in what I'm going to say. So, matter of fact, you've invested your money, so that's proof that you're interested in what I'm going to say. I'd like to talk about the power of the spoken word. Because you see, the spoken word has the power to influence in an unbelievable manner and degree. Years ago, somebody said one picture's worth 1,000 words or 10,000 words. I'm here to tell you that individual had never really read the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights. They had not read Lincoln's Gettysburg Address or the 23rd Psalm or prayed the Lord's Prayer. See, those are words. They're just words. But they're words that have impacted literally millions and millions and millions of people. Words can make you break out in hilarious laughter. You've heard it 101 different times. And as a matter of fact, I'm reading something here called Anguished English. Socrates was a famous Greek teacher who went around giving people advice. They killed him. Socrates died from an overdose of wedlock. After his death, his career suffered a dramatic decline. Now, when you read something like that, you can't help but get tickled. David was a Hebrew king, skilled at playing the lyre. He fought with the Finkelsteins, a race of people who lived in biblical times. Solomon, one of David's sons, had 300 wives and 700 porcupines. Now, when you read something like that, as I say, it does have an impact, an influence on your thinking. Charles Osgood said that compared to the spoken word, a picture is a pitiful thing indeed. You think about these words. Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death. And a nation united and fought for their independence. Lincoln said 77 years ago, and a nation was reunited. Churchill said there will always be an England, and the country was lifted by its bootstraps. FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And the Depression era got a glimpse of hope. Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. And because of it, many people dream today who did not dream before. Rosa Parks said, my feet hurt. And because of those few words, an entire people stood up and marched forward. The words can be so enormously important. Many, many years ago, I told a beautiful young girl, I love you. A few weeks later, she said to me, and I love you. 2.5 years later, the preacher said, I now pronounce you man and wife. A little over 2 years later, the doctor said, it's a girl, Mr. Ziegler. Now, you know, when you think about words like that, those are words that can lift you up. A youngster in California school really had all kinds of problems, came from a dysfunctional family, was failing in everything, and they put computers in there, and he had a knack for computers, and all of a sudden he started improving in every area of life, and his grades dramatically got better, and somebody asked him, you know, what has happened? And he said, my computer calls me Clarence. My classmates call me stupid. You see, the difference in the words can make a difference. Dr. Les Carter at the world-famous Menrith Meyer Clinic talked about the impact of words. I was concerned about this, and I said, is there a correlation between violent language and violence itself? And here is what Dr. Carter said. I have never worked with an abuse situation that didn't follow a pattern of verbal abuse before physical abuse. Additionally, the more one cusses, the less sensitive to the nature of their own behavior they become. The Bible says, thou shalt not curse a deaf man. Why not? They can't hear. It's obviously because of the damage it does to you. Acid destroys the vessel in which it is stored, and that's important. The way people talk is the best indication of how they think. The most powerful instrument for influencing a person's thought process is the language you use on them and they use on themselves. That's the reason I always use so much adult language, like dedication, responsibility, commitment, discipline, things like that. A lot of four-letter words, like good and best and real and fair and hope and love. And got to confess, every once in a while I slip the F word in on folks, because I believe that faith is enormously important. The language we use can have a substantial impact on a person's life. The language we use on ourselves can have an even greater impact on a person's life. Again, the most important opinion you have is the opinion you have of yourself. Now, I'm not talking about a super inflated ego. Conceit's that weird disease that makes everybody sick except the person who has it. That is not what I'm talking about. Like some wit said, it's kind of like the rooster who thinks the sun comes up so that it's time for him to crow. And there are a lot of people just that way. How powerful can words be? A few years ago, I was speaking in Marion, Indiana. It was a 4-hour seminar. I did it on Tuesday night. When I got home on the weekend, I had a letter from a lady who was there. And she said, Mr. Ziegler, I was there on Tuesday night. I'd just gotten back from Colorado on a rafting trip. It's one of the most magnificent experiences of my life. It was really wonderful. We would raft down the river, and as the sun was beginning to set, we would pull off to a flat spot. We would build our campfire. We would cook our dinner. And then she said we would go up a few hundred more feet so we could get a better view. And she said the rarefied air up there and the clarity, we could look at the stars and the moon. It was incredibly. And when I looked at the magnificent universe, and then the next morning we'd get up and go down to the streams, and the wildlife would be coming there to take their morning drink. She said the whole thing was so awesome that I thought of myself as being absolutely nothing, and contemplated suicide. And she said, that evening, on Tuesday evening, you quoted St. Augustine, who many years ago, and I paraphrase him, 399 AD, he said, man travels hundreds of miles to gaze at the broad expanse of the ocean. He looks with awe at the heavens above. He stares in wonderment at the fields and the mountains and the rivers and the streams. And then he passes himself by without a thought. God's most amazing creation. And she said, when you quoted St. Augustine, I realized what I was. When man looks at himself and what's important, with this pair of glasses you're being fitted with, you see, they will also reverse themselves, and they will look inside and let you see some of the things that you're going to be astonished at what is already there. And I think that's important. The power of the Word truly is awesome. We had a young man named Samuel Akwasi Sarpong who came to our 3-day Born to Win seminar here in Dallas. He's from Ghana, the Ashanti tribe. Now, the Ashanti tribe, which is by far the largest tribe in Ghana, has the practice of naming their children based on the day of the week on which they're born. Now, they have a given name and a last name. The middle name is their Ashanti name. His Ashanti name is Akwasi. And Akwasi in his language means godly, gentle, peace-loving, and kind.